we need to have another conversation about Black Panther. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I'm Chris Gore, joined by
Dante James
and
Anthony Ray Bench. I didn't know I was going to be on this episode.
You're going to be on this episode. We're recording a bonus episode here talking about Black Panther because I think more than anything, you want to hear the thoughts of two white guys talking about Black Panther. But I think what needs to happen is, well, no, you don't want that. Look, Dante James writes for Film Threat. He also happens to be black and has a lot. If you follow him on social media, as I do, at Bootsy Starchild on Instagram and Twitter, I love his social feed, and he has a lot of things to say. But on Black Panther, much more to say. And I think that it's also one of those movies that it begs discussion. I think I like messaged you like, did you see it? Did you see it? And you were just like, yes, I need time to process. And I felt the same way about it. Anthony and I recorded a podcast, right after we saw it. I don't know that was the best idea because so much of Black Panther begins a conversation. I want to include you in this conversation and actually probably talk the least I've spoken on any episode of the show.
Good
because
yeah.
Okay, well, Anthony curb me there, but we're actually just like sitting in the car and hanging out, and we're gonna, sounds like we're doing something strange, but no, we're not. Too much detail. Okay, I'm gonna shut up and you're gonna cut out most of this beginning part. But Dante, tell me your thoughts going to see it and then also seeing it. And then I think one of the big things about this film is also the reaction on social media. There have been a lot of great things, some mostly positive things, and a very few negative things, I think, in the wake of the release.
Yeah, so leading up to the release of Black Panther, even going as far back as just the rumors of the casting and who was directing, this was a film that, at least for us black folks, it was a film that we needed, and I think that's the word that I have to use is need. Like, we needed this film, and to most people who don't get it, they are wondering, why are black people making such a big deal about just a film? It's just a comic book movie, and who cares if the lead is black, and why is it always about race and stupid questions like that? And, for us who have been portrayed in films for so long as thugs and slaves and coons and buffoons, and, this was finally a movie that reflected, intelligence, bravery, community, and more importantly, just representation for young black kids to look at superheroes on screen and say, hey, I can dress like that person, or I can be like the Black Panther, or little black girls to look at Shuri, who plays Black Panther's sister, and say, yeah, I want to be like that, and not just like the character, but I want to be a scientist like her. I want to learn science. I want to it just gave us really positive, role models, and characters to strive for and to be like.
Also because and this was also some things that just when you see as many movies as I have in the past, why they would always cast a black female judge in a movie in a way to well, let's, it always seemed to me like we're filling a quota and this is the thing that's a positive image. But it's you have a woman, T'Challa's sister, who's a scientist. And also she has kind of a funky, fun sense of humor.
Yeah,
exactly. She definitely has spunk to her. But also the strong female characters.
And
yeah.
In the comics, and I hope they do something with this, because I think it'd be really cool. At some point, T'Challa actually goes into a coma, and she takes on the mantle of Black Panther. I would love to see them do like a little story, like not permanently, but just her take on a suit and fight crime. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Well, and maybe I didn't do quite the right intro for you, but you also, you know geek culture and geek, your comic books, and we've gotten into very deep conversations about old Marvel comics and whatnot. Before we even recorded, we were talking about the first appearance of Galactus in issue number 49, or was it 50, of the Fantastic Four. But also the reaction on social media to this has just been off the charts. And the box office cannot be ignored. I mean, we're looking at, it was like 400 million in the first, worldwide first weekend. So it's going to hit $1 billion without question.
Well, yeah, I mean, to look at social media and to see like just the outpouring of, people, not just black people, but just, everyone who's seen the film. But yeah, mostly black people. Just to see them going in there, with such expectation, and to leave the theater, having their expectations blown away, for me was kind of like a big thing. Like I remember being in the theater and seeing tears in the eyes of the black folks who were there watching the film, and people standing up clapping, and it gave us something that we felt like we really haven't had, which again, it's representation and that on that level. And but yeah, the success is again, no one we expected it to do well. No one expected it to do 400 worldwide, which is pretty amazing.
Well, we were also talking about Killmonger as the villain, quote,
right?
Villain.
And which, I'm glad you bring it up, because it goes into, like I said, me and Chris were talking earlier about just some of the deep undertones of the film. And I think, again, the reason why, Black Panther meant so much to us, because we got those undertones. The scene where Killmonger takes over, defeats T'Challa, and becomes the new Black Panther. He goes into this vision quest where he remembers a time with his father, and that scene was just kind of like a heartbreaking scene, because it was it showed what a lot of young black kids go through when their fathers aren't there, or when their fathers leave them, and him having to grow up without his dad, and what usually becomes of young black men when their fathers aren't there anymore. Like that scene hit a lot of us, like just really like, super hard in the gut. And to be honest with you, Killmonger was the villain, but a lot of us who were watching the film understood his rage. We understood why he was the way he was. And to the point where some people don't even consider him the villain of the film, but more of kind of like an anti-hero. To me personally, I'm going to say he was the villain, because though I understood his rage, his methods were not going to ultimately help black people. And if you've seen the film, what his motives were, which was to, empower black folks with, weapons of Wakanda to overthrow, the establishment, basically. And again, we've all thought it. We've all had those thoughts of, man, what if we did have these weapons? Or what if we did, what if we could change our fate in this country and around the world? We've all had those thoughts, but his methods were wrong. But on the other hand, like I said, we understood where all that was coming from. Okay, here's the thing. When you have a country like Wakanda, which is rich and, it's an advanced civilization, the wondering why that country with all these resources and all these weapons and all this advanced technology didn't do anything to stop the slave trade, to do that. Even after the slave trade, still did nothing to, help liberate black folks that were in chains, around the world. Again, these are points Killmonger made that really kind of, made a lot of sense to us, and
yeah, in the movie says specifically, they've had the war dogs, like agents that have infiltrated other countries around the world, like for years.
Exactly. So Wakanda knew what was going on with black folks around the world and chose to not interfere. So it's those kind of things that really brought this villain, I guess you could say, to life, and made him sympathetic in a way where, again, some people don't see Killmonger as the villain.
Yeah, I almost felt like he's the adversary, but I don't know. I think that having that side of the conversation represented by his character, Michael B. Jordan's character, like I thought was a stroke of brilliance. I thought that to segue off into some other aspects of the movie, the costumes.
Oh, amazing.
It felt like so. And what I love too, you saw people like dressing up to go to the movie, like in specific, like I just thought it was so cool. The pictures of people like getting dressed up to go to a film like this, like it became not just a movie, an event. I think we were saying like the only thing you could compare it to is maybe The Force Awakens, is the last movie that was sort of felt like an event, but this definitely had that. But I love that, the costumes paid tribute to African fashion, but made it Wakandan, so to speak. But like it had the elements of that. Do you want to talk more about that stuff? Like,
yeah, and that's a good point. I love the fact that again it I don't want to say a movie gave us pride, because it sounds kind of corny, but it was cool to see people, wanting to celebrate a film and doing it by, dressing up and, and not just dressing up in costumes, but really kind of like going all out and wearing the, African jewelry and the, even the hairstyles, and again, it's something that, we have never, really had a chance to really, because look, don't get me wrong, anyone who's been to Comic-Con or any of the conventions, you see people who do cosplay and this and that. But even for us, even with that, for us, the characters for black characters are very limited. It's like we could either be Jon Stewart or we could be, War Machine if we have the money to put that outfit together,
the Falcon.
Or the Falcon, it's like we have like 3 characters that are Black Lightning, maybe, it's like,
Cage.
Luke Cage. So that's 5 out of how, how many characters. And so it's always been limited for us, and so, now we have, all of Wakanda, we have, M'Baku, we have, Black Panther, we have, Killmonger, we have all these, and the black girls, black women have, amazing, cosplay, for them as well with Shuri and with the other, strong, female black characters in the film, it's that movie provided a lot for us in terms of, outlet. It gave us an outlet, and yeah, like Chris said, the social media response has been completely amazing. Like I've been all over Instagram, just like snapping pictures and of people dressed up and watching all the videos of people doing dance routines in theaters and all this crazy stuff, and it's kind of wild, and it's kind of, you could call it stupid, but it's really kind of fun, and to be honest with you, it's more inclusive than people think. I think in terms of like, the racist trolls and people who have had issues with this movie, and I've heard so many dumb comments about, oh, this is a movie that's anti-white. It's like, no, it's not anti-white, man. No one's telling any person who's white not to go watch the movie, it's just, you have to understand that, for us, it's something that, yeah, it's a big deal to us. And if you enjoy it, that's great. But, no one is telling you not to watch it. It is a lot more inclusive than people online are making it.
But I think one of the things that I think the film, what makes it, why people describe it as being groundbreaking or revolutionary or a milestone, the reason is they spent $200 million on this movie. It's a mainstream Hollywood movie that is broad in terms of appealing to kids, men, women, age range is all over the map, but it's about representation. It's about, this is the first time that this has been done. Yes, there have been other black superheroes, some of them we're embarrassed to talk about.
Like Blank Man.
Yeah. But this is one where it's all black characters for the most part. I mean, there's a couple side white characters, but I feel like because of that, it felt different in a way that, like, oh, finally, like, yes, this should be a thing. You know, why aren't there more movies like this? Which I think is what all of Hollywood is like thinking now. Like, we gotta capitalize on this, which might not be such a bad thing.
No, actually, this is something that me and some friends were talking about earlier this week. Is that it's a great thing because now, you know, there's been this ugly, you know, Hollywood, you know, philosophy that black movies don't make money, and it's been one of these, you know, kind of underground things where people don't talk about it, but they've made several hints that black films don't do well and they're not for the mainstream. This movie breaks all that, and luckily and hopefully because of how well it did, you know, we are going to see, you know, more, and not just black, but just people of color, you know, in bigger roles, and, you know, whether they're Latin, Middle Eastern, or whatever, you know, maybe studios are going to throw more money at some of these other films, you know, that star, you know, actors and actresses who aren't necessarily white, and you know, it's going to open a few doors, you know, and that's kind of like the hope of what, you know, Black Panther is doing right now.
Yeah, I will say this, and I hate to say this, but Marvel took a risk, and they could have got cold feet and like added Captain America into Black Panther.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad they didn't, and especially with the end of Civil War, where, you know, literally Captain America is in Wakanda.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh gosh, that's what they're gonna do. It's gonna be like a tag team. It's not gonna be Black Panther standalone. I'm so glad, you know, Marvel took a risk, and I hope we get to a point where it's not a risk anymore. I really hope it gets to that point.
Well, it's definitely not a risk anymore. It's like, it's good business, which, you know, every studio now has to be thinking we have to develop a big budget film. But what I do like is it just thematically, it hit a lot of things. I think that is also where it succeeded. That there are things that, which is fine. What I think is, like, I don't get, like, there are just certain groups of white people that feel like they're being excluded. You're not being excluded. It's just like, you know, I don't get that. It's like, there are plenty of other white characters out there and other superheroes, and I don't know, like, I don't get that attitude.
No, and it's a good point, because I you know, it's funny, you know, I read some of the comments online, and some people, you know, who were too afraid to admit that they're racist, write comments like, you know, oh, it was just too political. I didn't like it because it was so political. But I'm like, yeah, but you liked Winter Soldier. It's like you're saying that wasn't political.
Right. Yeah, that was a political thriller.
That was a political thriller, and you have no problems with that, right? Yeah. You know, it's like comments like that where it's like people who, you know, just don't want to admit their racism. You know, so they come up with these ridiculous reasons why they don't want to like Black Panther.
Well, I thought one of the weird things we were talking about earlier conversation in the evening, we were talking about how I grew up with Star Trek, I watched it in reruns in the 70s. It was one of those shows I'd watch it with my dad, and we'd sit and have long conversations about the themes of the show. And one of the things in that show was it had a multi-ethnic group of people working together. And I thought, well, this is great. This is like going to be the future. Like we're getting this, like it's happening on television. It's like, this is great. Like this problem, by the time I grow up, it's all going to be handled, and we're all going to get along, and we're not going to waste time, because I do think it's burdensome.
Yeah.
It's burdensome to carry around that type of fear. And I noticed it, like growing up in Michigan, and I would always associate someone who was racist as just being ignorant and just being of a low IQ, because it just seemed like it's such a superficial, dumb thing to to carry around. It's an added burden to already. It's, life is hard enough. You add all of that. You're carrying it around like a backpack filled with weights. So I always just associated like people that are racist with just being stupid people. So, which I think is for the most part true.
Yeah, it's very true.
Our current political climate. But like, that was the thing that like really depresses me, is that a conversation that like Star Trek, was something that I thought was so forward thinking, and we're not even close to being there, and it might even be worse today. So, I don't know. I just, that thought just crossed my mind, that just really I find upsetting. So
yeah, and to be honest with you, at this point, Black Panther, it's made its money. It's going to be a successful, one of the more successful Marvel films. There's really nothing, any of these racist trolls can do. Like I said, they could try to juke the Rotten Tomato stats. They could try to, give it a thumbs down on IMDb. They could do all these things to try to hurt the credit of the film, but it's nothing they can do at this point. It's going to continue to make money. It's probably going to be one of Marvel's biggest films. I know that I think I read today it was like one of the top 5 openings of, all time. So, and yeah, I mean, a lot of these people, especially now in our climate, because, Trump has given them a reason to slither out from under their rocks. It's like they're a lot more bold. They're a lot more, vocal about their racism and blah, blah, blah. And the funny thing about all of that garbage is that if they just watch the film for what it is, it's just a good film. I mean, it's like, forget, even if you don't understand all the deep points of Black Panther, it's still just a solid story all the way through, and it's a fun film, it's like, and it's a film where you're cheering for the hero, and it makes you think. It touches on a lot of different things. And if you're watching it just for that reason alone, you're going to be entertained, and it's a good movie. But yeah, there are some deeper, like I said, undertones to the film, that maybe you might not get, but that would be an opportunity to have a conversation with someone of color to find out, what those undertones were, but like you said, unfortunately, we're not living in that. Well, I don't want to say that, man, because there are people who get it. It's like
I just wish it was more. But I do think that those trolls are such a small percentage.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't be taken serious.
Exactly, because like I said,
very small percentage.
I know plenty of white people who love the film. I know plenty of all races who love the film. So that percentage is very small, and I don't want to give these people more credit than we should, because they're small.
The box office is speaking volumes.
Yeah, the box office speaks for itself. But I mean, the one thing that I don't know, just I remember when She's Gotta Have It came out, Spike Lee.
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
I remember when if that felt revolutionary at the time, because it got a wide release for an indie movie. So that was number one. And then it was, all black cast.
Yeah, black director.
Black director. And the one thing is, because I don't know, I've just, I've gotten in arguments with people about this. Like, I think that, I don't know how you feel about this. We haven't discussed this, but I think that Spike Lee is very misunderstood. And I think that when I've seen him attacked by the mainstream media, it's because they completely misunderstand his point and what he's trying to say. And I feel like what he's always said is, and you can see him quoted as this, he's saying, I'm for black people. I'm not against white people. Right. I just happen to be for my people. But that doesn't mean he's against white people. And I just don't get like that, he's made movies specifically for black audiences, and it's okay. Like, what was the one movie he made that's like the college film? It came out, it was like School Days.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like he just dealt with issues in that had never really come to light on any kind of mainstream level. So I just don't, to me, I look on it as, and this is going to seem, maybe this is a strange interpretation, but I like foreign films. I kind of grew up like watching like Toho movies and Johnny Sacco and his giant robot and Ultraman. And when I see movies that feature an ethnicity that is not my own. It is like, oh, that's a glimpse into another culture that, to me, if you're a person who has empathy, which, movies are a way to feel how someone else feels. It's a way to kind of put yourself, it's sort of like, it's like a VR in a sense of just like, I'm going to, see this the way this person sees the world, and it affords me a different opportunity. And
Right.
and this is how we, I feel like that it's an opportunity to learn something. And so just having grown up with a lot, when I say foreign cinema, I'm talking about giant monster movies from,
Sure.
Japan, which is kind of weird, but that was sort of my first foray. And then it was just like, I'm just interested in movies that were movies and TV shows that were different. And I kind of feel maybe this is a similar in a sense. It's one way of looking at it,
Right.
Okay, I'm going off the rails.
Yeah, no.
You see what I'm trying to say, Mike?
I get what you're saying, and it's funny because to me it goes right back again to representation. Again, with Spike Lee and all these guys, there was something missing in cinema that where we weren't being represented the way we are. Spike, on a very little budget, did more to portray black people the way they really are than any Eddie Murphy movie at the time or any other movie starring black stereotypes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to that, even you have to look at like how black actors or black people have been portrayed in films up until like even the 80s. It's like we were either like jive talking, street hustlers, or maids or butlers, or it's like there wasn't
Judges. There's always a
Right.
female judge. How was that a thing? That was a thing for years. That was like, it was annoying.
And it was always like the black judge with the saucy attitude, who's
Super sassy, yeah.
Yeah, who snaps her fingers and moves her neck. It was like always that person. And again though, stereotypes, not real black people, stereotypes, and sure, other cultures can say the same. I guarantee you, I know plenty of Asian people who can tell you about caricatures that they hate.
They don't all know kung fu.
No, they don't, and they're not all good at math. But again, it's Hollywood, for all its liberal bullshit, has never really gotten race right, and I feel like it's just starting to really kind of open its eyes to what real people are, so and you know what, I even though I'm saying this, I feel like there's hope. I feel like people are learning now. I feel like I feel like Black Panther has changed a lot, where we're going to start seeing a lot of different things moving forward in film, which I'm happy about. And if nothing else, if that's the job that it did, then that's all we need. If it opened those doors so that we can see real black characters and black people being portrayed in better, more realistic light, then the movie succeeds. It succeeded on that alone, besides the fact that it made tons of money.
Well, I think it's kind of a lock that there's going to be a Black Panther 2.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, come on, $400 million. It's going to be a sequel.
Well, yeah, and then Black Panther's actually in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Which we were in the most nerdy conversation about Infinity War before we even started recording, that maybe I'm glad that we didn't actually...
About celestials throwing asteroids and... Yeah.
But you know what, though?
Fighting Thanos.
The cool thing about that is, what I love about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and, Disney and the whole deal is, like, I love the fact that these actors, not the characters, but even just the actors themselves, support each other so much. And it was so cool. Like, I think I saw a picture of Chris Evans, with a Black Panther ticket, and endorsing the movie. And, like, for me, it's like, it's just reminding people that, yeah, this was a movie with starring a bunch of black actors and a black director, but it's still part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're still part of that world, and now that we had the Black Panther film, now it's cool to see Black Panther with Captain America and all these guys, fighting side by side with them and, fighting the bigger threat,
Well, to piggyback off what you said, Brie Larson has been quoted as saying Black Panther's going to change everything. So,
Yeah.
good on Brie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to see her film.
Yeah, Miss Marvel's going to be great.
All right. And thank you for listening to this bonus episode of the Film Threat Podcast. You can follow Film Threat at Film Threat on everything, or just go to filmthreat.com. You can read Dante's article, Fear of a Black Panther, on filmthreat.com, and you can follow him on social media at Bootsy Starchild. And I think the last thing left to say is,
Let's get out of here.